All right, everyone, ready to dive into some spicy MCU takes.
Always ready for those.
Today, we're looking at unpopular opinions, specifically a Reddit thread where folks get into some pretty heated debates.
Yeah, the internet's always good for that.
Exactly. So we'll see what we got and, maybe even spark some friendly arguments of our own.
Sounds fun.
So right out of the gate, we have a doozy. Some people think Age of Ultron is actually good.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? And they even go as far as to say Ultron is one of the MCU's best villains.
Okay, I'm actually curious about that one. I mean, James Spader as Ultron, you gotta admit, that was a great casting choice.
Totally. Spader's voice just has that perfect, chillin', AI vibe. But good movie. I don't know.
I can see why some might think so. The movie did a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, think about it. No Ultron, no Vision, no Sokovia Accords, no WandaVision even. It set the stage for so much.
True. It's like the foundation for a lot of later storylines. But moving on to another controversial figure, the Hulk. This thread is full of opinions about his, let's call it an interesting journey.
Oh yeah, the Hulk, where do we even begin?
Right. So some people actually think Thanos was right to just completely destroy Hulk in Infinity War. Like, they say it was necessary to show how powerful Thanos was.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, we're so used to Hulk smashing everything. Seeing him get taken down like that, it really upped the stakes,
For sure. It was a statement. But on the other side, you have the hardcore Hulk fans, right? And they're still waiting for that ultimate Green Scar moment where he's like, smart, angry, totally unstoppable.
I think a lot of those fans are still kind of bummed about how he's been treated, especially after Ragnarok. Like, he's funny, don't get me wrong, but it sometimes feels like he's just there for comic relief.
Yeah, and that's a shame because the Hulk can be, terrifying. Remember that scene in the first Avengers when he tosses Loki around like a rag doll?
Classic. That was peak Hulk.
Right. Some fans are saying that his rage should have been, visibly impacting his strength during the Thanos fight, what made the defeat even more brutal,
Oh, for sure. Imagine seeing him getting angrier, growing bigger, and Thanos still just, shuts him down. That would have been intense.
And then there's Smart Hulk in Endgame, which, let's just say it's a very polarizing topic.
Definitely. Some people see it as, a natural progression for the character, finally finding balance. Others, though, feel like it robbed him of his, raw power.
Yeah, it's tough. What do fans ultimately want from these characters? Do we want them to change, or do we want them to stay true to their, original form?
Good question. Maybe it depends on the character.
All right, so let's shift gears a bit. We're moving on to a movie that often gets a lot of hate, but some people are actually defending it. Thor, The Dark World.
Wait, defending it? How?
Believe it or not, some people think it's visually stunning. They're praising the costumes, the sets, the whole world building.
That's interesting. I'll admit, The Dark World did have a very distinct look. The contrast between the Dark Elves world and Asgard with all those golds and metallics, that was pretty striking.
And get this, some actually prefer it to the first Thor movie.
Whoa, really? Why?
They say Loki's way more interesting in the Dark World, and that it actually foreshadows some major events in Ragnarok.
I never thought about it like that. I guess it all comes down to what aspects of the movie you connect with the most, right? Some people prioritize visuals, some want character development, some just want a fun action flick.
Exactly. It's all subjective.
Yeah.
And to be fair to The Dark World, it's got a fantastic score, and technically it's a way more polished film than the first Thor.
Yeah, the CGI and cinematography are definitely a step up. I guess you can find something to appreciate in every MCU movie if you look hard enough.
Okay, so let's talk about Bucky Barnes. Some fans feel like he's been seriously underutilized, especially after the events of Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I see where they're coming from. Winter Soldier really dove into his past, the trauma, the whole brainwashing thing. It was heavy stuff.
And while Falcon and the Winter Soldier did explore his attempts to, atone for his past, it still feels like he hasn't quite reached his full potential.
Right. There was a real opportunity for him to become the new Captain America, especially given his bond with Steve Rogers.
Imagine a whole movie dedicated to Bucky's story. The war hero, the assassin, the redemption arc. It could have been amazing.
Absolutely. It could have delved into his PTSD, his struggles with identity, the constant fear of being controlled again. That's a movie I'd watch.
But some fans think it's too late for that. His role in recent films has been pretty minor. Maybe the MCU has moved on.
It's possible. It's a shame because Bucky has so much depth. But hey, you never know what the future holds in the MCU.
Okay, so before we go any further, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. Is the MCU actually suffering from superhero fatigue? Or is it just that some movies aren't as good as others?
Tough question. I mean, you look at Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that movie killed it at the box office, so clearly people still crave superhero stories.
Yeah, but maybe the bar is higher now. After years of epic crossovers and mind-blowing CGI, audiences expect more, you know?
Absolutely. Like, the Dark Knight trilogy and the Infinity Saga, those really pushed the boundaries of what a superhero movie could be.
So maybe it's not fatigue, but rather a sense that some recent films just haven't lived up to those expectations.
That's a good point. Audiences are more discerning now. They want more than just explosions and one-liners.
Okay, back to the unpopular opinions. This one's a bit of a shocker. Some fans believe She-Hulk is the most faithful comic book adaptation in the MCU.
Whoa, really? That's an interesting take. I mean, it definitely embraced the humor and the breaking the fourth wall thing from the comics.
And let's be real, Tatiana Maslany nailed it as Jennifer Walters.
Oh, yeah, she was fantastic. Totally captured She-Hulk's wit and charm.
Some fans are even hoping she'll get her own movie or another Disney Plus series.
I wouldn't be surprised if she pops up again somewhere.
Okay, so let's talk about Zendaya as MJ. There's this belief that the decision to not call her Mary Jane was a direct response to the, let's just say, not so nice reaction she got when she was cast.
Sadly, I think that might be true. It's unfortunate that an actress's race would be a factor, but, you know, it highlights the importance of representation.
And some fans are speculating that this might open the door for Peter to explore relationships with other love interests from the comics, like Gwen Stacy or Black Cat.
Oh, that would be interesting. I mean, the MCU loves to adapt those classic romances. Plus, it would introduce even more strong female characters into the mix.
All right, let's talk about the interconnectedness of the MCU. Some fans get really upset when standalone projects ignore or downplay the events of previous films.
I get it. That's one of the things that makes the MCU so unique, right? Everything is connected. What happens in one movie can have ripple effects across the whole universe.
Exactly. Like, Endgame actually made Thor, the Dark World, more significant. That's how a connected universe should work.
Totally. It showed that even seemingly unimportant events can have consequences down the line. But then you have movies like Eternals where, well, stuff happens that should have huge implications, but then they're just kind of ignored in later films.
Right, and that can be jarring for fans who are invested in the overall narrative. It's a tough balance, I guess. Marvel wants to give filmmakers creative freedom, but they also need to maintain that sense of continuity. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I gotta ask you about Ulysses Klaue, the arms dealer from Black Panther.
Oh yeah, Klaue. What about him?
Well, some fans are saying he was a more interesting villain than Killmonger, and that killing him off so early was a mistake.
Really? More interesting than Killmonger. That's a bold statement. But I see what they mean. Klaue had this, like, chaotic energy, and Andy Serkis was so good in the role.
And apparently, Ryan Coogler himself, the director of Black Panther, has said he regretted killing Klaue off so quickly.
Wow, really? I wonder what they could have done with him if he had stuck around longer. Maybe he could have popped up in other movies, always causing trouble.
Imagine Klaue in Spider-Man. Homecoming. The possibilities are endless. All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, but we've got plenty more unpopular opinions to dissect.
So much MCU drama to unpack. Where were we?
Yeah, we were just talking about Klaue and how he could have been in, like, every movie causing chaos. But let's move on to another character who some fans feel got the short end of the stick. Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man.
Oh yeah, I've heard this one. People think skipping him as the current Ant-Man was a missed opportunity.
Big time. They say the MCU missed out on a seriously complex character. I mean, think about it. He accidentally created Ultron. That's a lot of baggage to work with.
Right. There's that whole internal conflict, the guilt, the regret, trying to redeem himself. It's classic superhero stuff.
Plus, imagine Hank interacting with the OG Avengers. He could have been like a mentor, especially to someone like Spider-Man.
Totally. That dynamic would have been fascinating. But there's that whole thing in the comics, right? Where he hits Janet.
Yeah, that's a dark moment in his past. Maybe Marvel was worried about adapting that.
I mean, it's understandable. But characters can change, right? Redemption arcs are kind of a superhero staple.
Exactly. Maybe that's a story they could explore in the future. You never know with the MCU.
Okay, let's talk about Kang. There's been a lot of discussion about recasting Jonathan Majors, especially with the whole multiverse thing going on.
Right. The multiverse would have been the perfect excuse to bring in a new actor and say it's just a variant.
Exactly. Easy fix.
Hmm.
But it seems like Marvel's sticking with their original choice.
And some fans are disappointed. They were really hoping to see Kang become this, like, multiversal big bad, even more dangerous than Thanos.
I get it. Kang has that potential. But hey, maybe Marvel has something up their sleeve. They've surprised us before.
Okay, before we wrap things up, let's do a quick fire round of other unpopular opinions from this Reddit thread. Ready?
Hit me with them.
All right, some people actually enjoy Spider-Man Far From Home, despite its plot holes.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a fun movie. Tom Holland is great. Sometimes you just need a lighthearted superhero flick.
Some people even think Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man movie.
Whoa, really?
Mhm.
That's a hot take. I mean, it's definitely different from the other two.
And finally, some love for the Incredible Hulk. People are saying it's not as bad as everyone remembers.
You know, I kind of agree with that one. It had a different vibe, more grounded, and Edward Norton was a good Bruce Banner.
All right, we've gone through a ton of opinions.
It's amazing how much passion there is in the MCU fandom. Everyone's got their own take.
So many opinions, so little time.
Yeah.
It's been fun going through all these hot takes, from Age of Ultron to Thor, the Dark World, and everything in between.
It really makes you think, what makes a good MCU movie is so subjective.
Totally. One person's trash is another person's treasure. And that's what makes these discussions so interesting.
Right. It's not always about what the critics say or how much money a movie makes. It's about how it connects with you on a personal level.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the MCU fandom. Everyone's got their own favorites, their own interpretations.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of unpopular MCU opinions, we have one final question for you.
Hit us with it.
What are your unpopular opinions? What are those hot takes that you're just dying to share?
Don't hold back. Let us know in the comments or on social media. We want to hear what makes you tick as an MCU fan.
Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. Sharing our love for this crazy, amazing universe.
Even if we disagree about certain things, right?
Exactly. Disagreements are part of the fun. It keeps things interesting.
So keep those comments coming, keep those discussions going, and keep that Marvel love alive.
And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more epic content.
Yeah, we've got tons of awesome stuff coming your way, so stay tuned. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the Marvel Universe, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.